Hey guys, and welcome to the Fix It in Post podcast. Myself and Ashlyn have talked about this for a while, and we think it's something that is really important in the creative industry. I myself am an actor, writer, director, but it's not just for people in the film industry. It's any creative, so artists, authors, anybody that's in the creative field, and we all know how tough it is out there choosing a life to be a creative. And basically, this podcast is just going to talk about mental health and the positive affirmations that we can implement to help going forward. We don't have all the answers, but um, we are just like everybody else, struggling in the industry and the things that we have to deal with. So just hearing people that you can relate to talking definitely helps. And we want it to be a place where you can find your tribe. We are going to have guest speakers in from different aspects of the industry to impart their wisdom to us. And we'll also be opening out to questions from you guys. We're going to be doing some live feeds, so you can get any of your questions across to us. And yeah, hopefully that it helps. And just that you know that you're not alone out there, because sometimes in the creative field you feel like you're the only one who feels like that. And then it's only when you talk to other people that you realize no matter what level they're at, and you'd be amazed that they're all kind of struggling with the same aspects of it.
I'm an actress as well, but my background is actually in psychology. So my academic background and my original professional career was in psychology. So what I've started to do a lot more of is I teach accents. I'm an accent coach online, but people have been coming more and more to talk about like their mental health and just engage with other actors. And I found that's what we started having this conversation about doing a podcast on mental health, because people feel very isolated, as Baz was saying. And with my background in psychology, I thought I could do blended lessons and just blended sessions and seminars, focusing on mindset, confidence within the creative industry, not just for actors, but for everyone involved in the creative industry.
So the name Fix It in Post, we went through a variation of names, but it is it's one of the things that when you're on a movie set that it's the last thing you want to hear anybody saying. Trying to fix it after the fact. So we felt it was relatable to fixing it in post as regards fixing your mental health, not trying to fix it after the fact. So prevention is the key to it, and we just thought that it fit with the whole aspect of what we were going to be talking about and what we were trying to get across.
Yeah, and we kind of wanted to have a very honest and open conversation, because a lot of us go to different seminars and different courses, and you hear the buzzwords, you hear like all the same kind of advice, whereas this is just a very honest and raw and bare conversation about people's mental health, like, and the things that we experience in this industry, because there are unique challenges to the creative industry that other people just outside of it wouldn't really understand. But it's to create that support, to create that community where everybody can feel that they have a voice and they're heard.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first topic we're going to deal with, which again anybody in the creative field at some point will have to deal with it from the top down, and that's the word of rejection.
Yep.
So what is your thoughts on rejection?
Every actor suffers rejection, but it's very easy to think that you're the only one who's like not getting a response when you're messaging an agent or you're messaging a casting director. If you don't hear anything back, or you send in your submission, you don't hear anything back, it's pretty consistent. It's probably like 90% of the time. And it's very easy to feel like you're doing something wrong. And the first thing we do as actors, I know I do it, I question, like, was I not good enough? Did I perform well enough? Did I read the brief correctly? And it's constant. Like, it's not like you just get rejected once. It's a consistent thing. Like, the whole way through, you're constantly getting rejected. But nobody ever really talks about how that makes us feel on a daily, weekly basis. It's only when you really kind of go to events or something and you open a dialogue with another actor and like, oh no, I didn't hear anything back either, that you kind of understand that it's relatively normal, and it is normal in the industry, but nobody really focuses on the impact that has. Like your confidence, your well-being, your motivation, everything gets impacted.
You probably didn't read the brief properly though.
Most of the time I don't read
it. But yeah, again, it's not just, for actors, it goes to, directors and artists and, and that's the thing. And when you talk to, again, people who are at a top level and they're going through the same thing, and never in a million years would you feel that they would be suffering the same thing and not getting replies, not getting in the room, kind of fighting whatever clique it may be, whether that's funding or just, certain crews or or the acting world, and it's like, again, there's the taboo word of like the click, but you know that is an aspect of it. And then it's like, well, when you feel like you're on the outside, how can you take the power back, you know? And it is very easy to say, oh, well, just send off the email or do the audition or, you know, put in the application and then just forget about it. But when you're passionate and you love it so much, like, you know, it's nearly impossible, because you beat yourself up and you start, like you said, questioning yourself, what did I do wrong? And then comparing yourself to other people is the worst thing that you can do for your mental health, because, you know, you're looking on social media.
That's the worst.
You know, you're looking at people and you're just like, well, what's wrong with me? Why are they? And even worse if you're like, oh, well, you know, I've been doing this way longer than them. I have all the training. I have all this. But they didn't, and they just walked in and they got it, and they must know someone. And you start trying to justify their reason for it. And that's their journey. It's not yours.
Yeah, I think social media is a big problem, because it's very easy for not just actors, but like any creative sitting there, like you said, looking at what everybody else is doing and they're doing so well. But social media is entirely cultivated. Like nobody's ever, like very few people will show when they're having a bad day or when they've been rejected or when they've lost out on the audition. Everyone is showing their best side all the time. So if you're having a bad day, you're looking online, seeing everybody at their best and comparing yourself to them. It just compounds the problem.
Yeah, comparison is the killer of creativity. You know, it's but yeah, you're getting a snapshot, and people are putting out the most positive side of their life. And you know, I know plenty of people, their social media looks amazing, but they're miserable in their real life. And so comparison, you'll absolutely destroy yourself. You know. So then let's talk about taking the power back. What can you do as an artist in any field to take the power back?
Well, you have to accept that it's outside of your control. Like I think the biggest issue, I know for myself and I know with other actors that I've spoke to, they take the rejection personally. You can't take it personally. Like, I mean, I've been in situations where I know I've lost a role because I was like too short, like 2 inches too short or something. That's outside of my control. Or it could be something like you think you're perfect for the role. And I know a lot of actors in particular put a lot of pressure when they're doing an audition. They're like, this is the role for me. This is what's going to make my career. This is what's going to make me happy. The problem with that mindset is that's anchoring your success and your happiness outside of yourself. So then when it doesn't happen, it's absolutely earth-shattering. And then you do take it personally, like, you know, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't this, and it flips your mindset on you. Like, you have to accept that is out of your control. If you're not getting a role, it's not personal, it's not something you're doing wrong. It's very likely something ridiculous, like maybe you didn't match up with the other actor that was there from a physical perspective, but it's outside of your control, and you have to be able to deal with that. But it's I say to loads of people all the time, inside of your head should be the safest space for you to be. So like when you're getting rejected, when you're having a bad day, you should be your own biggest champion in your head. You should not be sitting there going, this is my fault, I did this wrong. You have to be your own biggest supporter. So the first step with trying to deal with rejection and taking the power back is changing your mindset and supporting yourself, backing yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I lost out on roles for not having enough tattoos. No, I'm only joking. It was never that case. No, but like, no, I totally get that. But you know, inside my own head is a minefield, and I'm my own worst critic. And you know, I beat myself up in it. And many years in the industry, I have to learn to channel it a little bit. It never fully goes away from me, because if you love it and you're so passionate, it's actually, you know, in the creative field in general, but especially for an actor, it's one of the only creative fields that you need permission to do the job that you love, to do what you love. So you need a casting director, a producer, a director, somebody to give you the yes to do what you love. And when you don't get to do that, it's so frustrating. So for me, taking the power back is creating your own stuff, you know, and whether that's writing, you know, directing, shooting your own stuff, as you know, even people as an artist, going and just doing it anyway. So you don't get the grants, you don't get the money, you can't afford the studio space, but you can still create art. And I think you'd always just have to remember that you're an artist, like a true artist, no matter what field you are. And that includes people, crew, you know, you're creating art. And if you keep reminding yourself that you're an artist, you're not a commodity, and people get wrapped up in the commodity of the business, and you have to remind yourself, well, I'm actually an artist, I can create all day long. And yeah, maybe it won't get on Netflix, maybe you won't be in a gallery, maybe you won't, but are you serving yourself, creating your art? Are you getting that out there? And it's really important, you know, writing, painting, directing, whatever it is. Even acting these days, like to a certain point, you can do a TikTok reel. That's a form of acting, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it might be a minor form of it, but you're still creating something. And you know, even podcasts or whatever you can do in the creative field, for me, that's taking the power back.
Yeah, 100%. But communicating and like speaking to other creatives, not just actors, like but just the overall community, and having open dialogue with everybody and working together on other things. Like it's really, really important because there is a level of support in that too. Like I know a lot of actors and directors, like we all work on different projects together, whether or not it's ever going to go anywhere. But it's, as you said, it's getting the creative juices flowing and continuously creating and evolving and just aiming for it instead of kind of sitting there hoping and waiting that the dream role comes along.
The tough part is though when there's nothing happening for you, you know, and you're at home and you have the four walls. So yeah, I agree with you, and I have my WhatsApp groups and I have my, you know, industry friends I reach out to, and vice versa, they reach out to me, you know. And just recently, again, someone that's like top of their game, just like absolute top of their game, and they didn't get the job that they were going to, and they contacted me about it, and they're like, you know, the top. So when you hear from that level, you're like, okay, we're all in the same boat here, you know. And in the creative field, because there's so many creatives in the world, which is amazing, it's such a tough field to break through to make money, because we all need to make money. And then you talk about side hustles, and it's like, do the side hustles take you away from your creativity? And there's a compromise there. Yes, that people do need to work and they do need to make money. So then when is their time to create the art? And then you find a lot of people just give up because it's so tough. But then you usually end up not fulfilling your life as an artist. You just have to make the money, you know. So it's finding that balance, definitely.
In terms of rejection, then just on mindset within rejection, like obviously both you and I have dealt with our fair share, but
I've never been rejected.
You're just in denial. There's the difference between accepting rejection and just delusion.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the answer. Just ignore it.
Be deluded.
Plow on.
But in terms of like, if you get, let's say, a rejection email, or you don't get an email at all, like where does that, what does that do to you personally?
Yeah, it's the it goes back to the like, why am I not enough, and what else do I need to do? And I've done all the things that the self-help guys have told me, and I've done all the workshops, and I've done all the training, and you know, it comes back to that, and you're like, then you start going, oh well, I'm not good enough. I'm never gonna make it. My look is wrong. I'm too short. I'm too tattooed. And these, you know, negatives creep in, and everybody does it. Everybody has that self-critic, and it's kind of training your brain to start switching that around, which is it is really hard. Like, and it's not just a matter of saying switch your brain around and start thinking differently, but you have to, I think for me anyway, I have to just remind myself that, you know, we have one life, we're living our life, and it is an industry. In even if you're an artist, you know, there's so many amazing, incredible artists and actors and stuff, but if you don't have like the industry side of that, it's really, really hard, you know. And then you get into, do you have a good agent representing you? And you know, you get into all that side of it. But does creating art make you happy? Yes. If you're an artist, of course it does. Will it make you money? Maybe not. But are you going to be miserable not creating it? And it's pushing yourself through the tough times and go and show them. And I find that's the way. You can talk about it all day long, but actually fucking go and show them. Like, you know, this is what I can do. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, okay, you know.
Well, that's the thing, like it's taken that rejection and taken, like, you know, it's very easy to get down in the mouth about it and turn it on yourself. And it's taken me years to get to a point where, like, in my head, I'm very stable within myself, and I back myself now no matter what. Like, not massive egomaniac or anything like that, but, well, not in front of people. But when, like, if someone gives me a compliment, not you, because you never give me one, but if someone gives me a compliment, it is nice to hear. Everybody loves getting a compliment. But it doesn't change how I feel about myself, because in my head I'm already saying something like, I know I'm deadly, I know I'm amazing. That might sound egomaniac, but it's something that I've had to train myself to do for years. But likewise, if I get a rejection or somebody says something negative, it doesn't knock me to a point where I think I've done something wrong. Now, constructive criticism is different. That's helpful. Absolutely, I'll engage in that. But if someone is just trying to tear you down, or if you're ghosted and you're not getting any response from agents, casting directors, whoever it may be, I don't take that personally, and I don't let that bring me down. I stay at the same level. But that takes work. And like you said, it's not just the buzzwords, it's not just this. It's like, I've personally gone through therapy and talked about confidence issues, and learn to work with it and put the time and energy in to getting my mindset to a strong enough place where I can withstand it. That's why I like to teach it, because I see it so often with creatives. The first thing we do is turn it on ourselves if we get rejected.
Well, that's good, because I'm the other side of the fence, that if I do get criticism, I take it so personally, and I don't deal with it well. And even if it's constructive, but that's an inferiority complex, because I'm already questioning myself constantly, and I'm already looking for excuses not to do something. And I'll write a script and I'll be like, I'll start telling myself it's not good enough. How can I make a feature film? I'm not good enough to make a feature film. And that inward voice, and then if somebody reaffirms that affirmation, I'm like, oh, I was right. My negative voices were right. This is what they're talking about, and even like we'll talk as well about like trolls and negative stuff on social media and stuff like that. But that shit does affect me, and I try not to read the comments, but it's unavoidable sometimes, especially when you're marketing your own films and stuff. So that's great that you have you trained your brain to be like that, and I aim to be like that, and hopefully people listen, can, and you're gonna give advice on that, how you can get there. And I have tried a lot of that stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like
you have to believe it. Like, it's very easy for me to sit here and say to people like, oh, tell yourself that you're great, you're worth it, you're this, you're that, but you have to genuinely believe it, because like lying to yourself isn't going to work either. But it's really confronting the reasons why you think you're not good enough, facing that and accepting it, and then building on that. But like, that's why like loads of people, they give talks, they give seminars, positive self-talk, all of that, like, be happy. It's not about being positive and being happy. It's about when you're having your worst of days, and everybody has bad days. I have bad days too, but it's about your mindset on those bad days, where you're taking time to look after yourself. You're accepting that something's happened. Maybe it's outside of your control, or maybe it's something that you've created yourself, but it's still, you're not anchoring your worth or your happiness or anything in anything external to you. You're sitting with yourself and you're perfectly happy and content within yourself, even on your worst days. It does take a lot of work, but it's definitely doable. I mean, I've been my worst enemy for years. Like, about my issues with, like, it came about from rejection, but even trying to sit in front of a camera and like take a headshot, it's like, that took therapy. That actually took years of therapy to do that, from years of rejection.
Yeah. But yeah, and the same feel like I'm such a walking contradiction, because in my life, I've had anxiety since I was a kid, and I just thought that was normal. Like, I never knew, and I was never, diagnosed like growing up, but I like really anxiety, and it still kicks my ass to this day, every set that I walk onto, whether it's my own or somebody else's. So dealing with that, but as well, I'm really like actually quiet, shy and reserved in my real life to people who don't know me. Like, I'm really quiet. Social anxiety, all that kind of stuff. And I hate the attention, my look with the tattoos give. I hate walking into a restaurant, everybody looking. So that's like my worst nightmare. I die inside. But at the same time, I'm a fucking actor, and that's such a juxtaposition. And you will find that with a lot of people in the creative field, that it's like this fighting battle. It's like, well, why would you want to put yourself in front of a camera? Why would you want to be on social media, giving yourself all that attention and stuff like that? Because I kind of hate that side of it, but I love being an artist and a creative, So yeah, that's like a constant battle. That's going with it,
It's part of your split personality.
Exactly, yeah. And I have ADHD, so. And that's the thing, with the affirmations and all that kind of stuff, and I've done loads of stuff like that, like the breathing work, which you're big into, and the grounding and the yoga and all that kind of stuff, that stresses me out more than anything. Like, my anxiety goes to 1,000.
With breath work?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's like, it's when I have to like close me, like, I was training in LA and we were doing it, and I close your eyes and you ground yourself and feeling all that. My heart is like pounding out my chest. I don't know, it's like an anxiety thing. So the only thing I have found is the tapping technique to kind of calm me down when I'm on set. We can talk about that.
Like, there's different strokes for different folks. Like, I know even when I was starting out with meditation, I couldn't do it. When they say like relax your mind or clear your mind, I couldn't. I was like, I don't know what that looks like. How do you do that?
But I don't know if it's like the little rebel punk rock in me. I listen to, meditation tapes at night. I put it on and close my eyes, and I'd be like, my mind will go into overdrive thinking. And I think it's because somebody's telling me to do something. I'm like, no.
When you're trying to sleep.
Yeah. Even when I'm sleeping.
Even when you're asleep.
I'm rebelling. Okay, so next topic we're going to talk about is the importance of networking. Now, I will say that word can be a bit of a dirty word. If you talk to my good friend William Morgan, the actor, he hates that word of
Why?
networking, because there's a connotation with it that when you're networking, you're at events and you're talking to people with an agenda. So he likes to say building relationships, right? Now, it doesn't exclusively mean, networking is a dirty word and all that. And you do need to do that part of it. But I don't like when it's done in a false pretense of, yes, we all need to network and we all need to hustle and we need to make connections and all that kind of stuff. But I despise when I get it done to me and it's just superficial. I would rather know what you like to eat, what your favorite music is in a conversation before you start pitching yourself to me.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think like networking, unfortunately, is a big part of it. Like it is really, really important. And it's important for a couple of reasons. Like it's important to obviously get on the radar of prospective employers, like, and for them to see you outside of just like an email that you're going to send them, for them to put a face to the name and like get a feel for who you are as a person. But it's also really, really important for building like a rapport with other actors, or if you're a director, with other directors, like, and building that little support network and that community around you. And like in terms of employment, even for myself over the last couple of years, it's come primarily from my own network. So it is really important. Like I love meeting other actors. I love meeting other directors and all of that. But then also I put heavy emphasis on getting myself in front of what I consider prospective employers. Like I don't go up and like hand them a business card and be like, hey, hire me. I talk to them like they're humans. I'll walk up to them like they're just people, ask them how their week was, how was their day. And I've been at events where I've seen people going around like with just their business cards, or they're reaming off their CV to people. Or like you always see the poor casting directors in particular at events, they're stuck in a corner, about 15 actors around them, like throwing business cards at them.
Again, I mean, I probably shouldn't be in this industry because I'm terrible at networking. Social anxiety. I walking up to somebody, starting a conversation.
You're such a ray of sunshine.
I'm just like the worst. But yeah, and if it is a conversation, I personally just don't like to do it under a false pretense that I'm looking for something from somebody. I actually met with a director, and you're right, like most of the work and that's in the creative field comes from your connections and the people you've made and recommendations and all that. Absolutely, 100%. So it is really, really important, but I met with a director there early this year, and we were just walking around chatting, and for an hour and a half, and then we were walking in a park, and then we sat down, and that director said, that was so refreshing. And I was like, what's that? And he was like, you haven't mentioned the industry, what I'm doing next, what I'm like. We were just talking about life, and he was like, I just have people just pitching to me, and I and he doesn't like that. So, and that wasn't me doing it in a fake way. It was just as the conversation was going. So it is vital, it is important, but just don't be like going in there to sell yourself. It's like.
Well, I think there's the attitude as well of like there's no access to these people outside of these events, like, because obviously everybody's email and everybody's trying to get in touch with them, and then they see that as an opportunity to get in front of them and showcase that they're an actor or a director or whatever it is. But it doesn't. I think, like, me personally, I try to convey just from my own experience that I don't think that's how it works. Like, you can get on their radar. They all know, like, especially in Ireland, it's such a small industry, but they tend to know that you're an actor. Like, it's assumed that you're a creative in some sort. But I think I personally put more emphasis on them knowing me as a person, getting to know my personality, and wanting to get to know them and get a feel for them, as opposed to like walking up and be like, hey, I'm an actor, I'm looking for work and please hire me, kind of thing. But I understand other actors who are doing that because they're not getting a response maybe from their emails, or they don't know where to start, and then they see this as an opportunity, so they do go in and think, okay, I'm gonna tell them I can do this and I'm perfect for their show. And
I think it's a great after the fact introduction. So if you do go to these things, which you should be going to, and you can make the connections with Etalenta and Spotlight and the Actors Home, they're brilliant. And if you attend these events, which you should do, an email following that up and telling them what you loved about it, making that connection, I think that's a really clever rapport thing. And again, only do it if you genuinely liked what they were about. But that's a good way of getting on the radar of people, and again, for anybody in the creative field, doing it that way can help, because like you said, at the events they do get bombarded and they see so many people that it's very hard to remember even who you were talking to. But if you follow up then with an email, that can be a good way of doing it.
I think it's really important as well to go abroad, like go outside of your own country, because it's very easy for, like, because you see the same people in the same country and you get very familiar, but it's nice to go to different countries to see how it's done there and meet international actors. From the events that I went to, like I obviously went to Berlinale, but even going over to the Actors Home in Barcelona and stuff, and then I met E. Talento when I was in Berlin as well. You just get a different perspective of what the industry is like in that country, and hearing how things are done there, it kind of gives you just a bit more insight on how to operate necessarily at these events here. Because I know, like, in Barcelona it's a lot more chilled out, it's a lot more relaxed. I went to one there and everyone was just so kind of cool, and like there was loads of casting directors and everything there, and they just mingled with everybody, very, very chilled out. There wasn't a business card in sight. Berlin then was nuts. It was like 2 minutes talking to people here, there and everywhere. They literally walked up and said, "What's your Instagram?" They'd look at your stuff like, "What's your contact information?" That was it. So it was a completely different.
Yeah, it was like speed dating.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, but it is good to get out there and try and build up your connection, and try and get you find your tribe. And it's all recommendations, you know. I mean, there's not a month goes by these days that I don't have people from the industry reaching out to me for people that I have worked with previously, asking for recommendations, you know, yay or nay, what's this person like to work with, and vice versa. And I respect the people I reach out to enough to, you know, if they give me a decision on something, I will respect them and go with it. But a lot of people in the creative industry don't realize how adamant that is, like, and how regular it is. And if you're an asshole on one thing, you're an asshole on them all, and the word gets out, and you know, it's that side of things, and that's what can get you the jobs, you know. So I mean, the point there is, don't be an asshole, which you shouldn't be anyway. But the recommendation thing is really, really strong for crew and getting work as well.
Like, you're only as good as your last day on set.
Yeah. And word does get around, and you know, and then there'll be people wondering why they're not working, you know, on both sides, crew and actors and stuff like that. It's like, because people told, you know, what you were like on the last one. So as people in the creative field as well, we touched on it, but what about side hustles?
So it's kind of like, I think every actor would love to be able to say that they can make their living from being an actor, but it's like 1% can say that. Every actor I know has a side hustle, myself included. Sometimes actors have multiple side hustles, or they have like their main day job, because like being an actor is expensive. Headshots, courses, travel, everything costs money, and yet you don't really ever see that back unless you do make it. But there's also the problem with side hustles. And if you, like, for me, for example, I'm an accents coach, and when that's going really, really well, like, that's generating obviously an income for me to survive and to pay for other courses and travel and everything else. But then I'm seen as an accents coach, and people are coming to me only as an accents coach, and then you're kind of like, okay, I'm not even being recognised as an actor anymore, because now I'm an accents coach, when that is just a side hustle. So it's like, I think they're a necessary evil, but there is that whole thing of it kind, you know, you can kind of feel like you're getting pulled away from the thing that you want to do, which is being an actor, but you have to do it in order to survive. Like, you can't, I personally, on being an actor alone, wouldn't be financially viable right now. Someday hopefully it will be, but I think that's the case for most actors. Yeah,
absolutely. Everybody needs to make money, and not just actors, the creative field, artists, authors, everybody would love to just hand over and just be a creative, but there's bills need to be paid, and we all need to pay bills, and myself included. Like, you know, I have side hustles. What I do try to do these days though is keep it in the arts somehow, you know. So teach workshops, and you know, online one-to-ones, and write scripts on spec, and you know, all that kind of stuff as much as possible, to kind of keep it in the arts. And then, you know, when you do have a side hustle and somebody who knows you as an actor or a creative or whatever, and walks into a coffee shop and you're serving them in the coffee shop, and then it's the attitude of, the acting didn't work out, you know. And they've no idea. But it's finding that balance of making money and still giving time to your creative field. And for now, like, my life is in the creative field predominantly, but I give about 5 to 8 hours minimum a day on my creative work, whether that's writing, emailing, acting, whatever it is, workshops, 5 to 8 hours. And I feel like for me, that's the amount of time and effort I need to put in to keep driving it forward. somebody who has a 9 to 5 job working 6 days a week, how much time can they allocate to that, you know? But what I will say is that find one thing every single day that pushes you further in your field. Just one thing. That can be an email. It can be, you know, just booking your headshot. It can be whatever it is, writing something. But one thing a day, and actually that affirmation of doing that every day actually does really help, you know, because you still feel like you're a creative.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of people, like I used to obviously work in psychology, like completely out of the field, but even like I used to dedicate maybe one day over the weekend to just do my emails or just like going onto the groups on social media and finding out what casting calls are coming up just to stay connected. So I do understand it from creatives' perspectives who aren't getting to do their side hustle within the industry, but it's like even stay connected to people who are, like talk about it, go onto the forums, go to the meetups, like there is regular meetups, that kind of thing, just mentally to feel like you're still a part of it, because they might not have the time and energy to give to it every single day.
Yeah, it is, and it's the other thing of, you know, people asking what do you do for a living, and
what's your real job?
Yeah, what's your real job? Or people hesitant to say I'm an actor or I'm an artist, because it's just, in societal terms, it's not seen as a real thing, you know. And
I'm sure you get that question, like, what would I have seen you in?
Yeah, what have you been in?
What have you been in?
And I say your mother. But it depends who's asking me. It depends. I pick my demographic. But yeah, I am a bit cheeky. But yeah, it is that whole, you know, frowning on it. And I remember the first time I ever replied with I'm an actor. That's the podcast cancel.
Sorry, you don't have to.
So the first time I ever replied that my job was an actor was going through passport security in the airport. And they asked me, what's your occupation? And I said an actor, and I felt so weird saying it.
Really?
Up in that point I'd never said it, but once I said it, you know, and you know, taking that power and being like, yeah, I am an artist and this is my passion, because a lot of people, if they have a side job, they're reluctant to say, because they feel like they need to be doing it constantly. It's like, no, you're an actor, you're an artist, you're, you know, a creative. So
100%. Like, I mean, I've had it said to me so many times, like, what you do, an actor, yeah, but what's your real job? But I'm a real asshole about it. It's like I just will not back down. It's like, no, I'm an actor. And then they're like, well, what would I have seen you in?
Yeah, that's the question.
Like,
and when people ask me that, even to this day, I go blank. I can't even think of because it's just such a horrible question. And then it feels like you're trying to justify yourself. You're like, that's the question for them to determine whether you're a real actor or not. Have you been on Netflix? No, or you're not a real actor, you know? You can stand out in the street, stand in a wooden box and perform a monologue. You're an actor. You know, it's the oldest art form, storytelling. You're an actor. So just don't be afraid to say, no, this is what I'm doing. And yes, should look at LA. I mean, I did pilot season in LA, and I was doing training out there. Every single person that was on that training course had 2 jobs. They were working in coffee shops, they were working in bars, and they were actors. And that's just normal in LA. Whereas in the rest of Europe and the world, it's kind of like frowned upon. But we all need to make a living. We all need to make money.
That's it. Like, you have to, like, especially like with the way the world is now, everything is so expensive. So people are having to, like, if they might have been able to scrape by beforehand, now they can't. Now they need extra income. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be ashamed of.
So if you'd like to make your donations to our podcast,
yes, please see the link below.
We are poor, starving artists.
Please see the link below.
I think everybody, like I said, needs a side hustle, nothing to be ashamed of, and then work towards someday not having to have a side hustle. You know.
And well, that's one of the reasons as well why we wanted to do this podcast is because we are gonna obviously hopefully go to festivals and do like little pop-up podcasts and stuff, and just have real conversations with real people and like talk about things, because as you said, like, there's a lot of shame for some reason about having a job to support yourself and to support your dream. Like, it's such an ironic opinion to hear. And people, like, you're aiming for your dreams, people are chasing their dreams, but the fact that you have a job to support them, they're like, oh, then it's not a real dream.
Why do you think people love to take down creatives in that narrow-mindedness?
Because most people have conformed to the societal pressures. Like, it's like 9 to 5. This is the normal path. Don't go against the grain. Like, you go to school, you go to college, and no judgment on anyone who's done that. Absolutely. Like, I've certainly done that myself. Like, you'll judge everybody anyway. but that's like the normal path. So anything outside of the normal path seems scary and weird. But there's also a lot of people who would have sacrificed their dreams or not pursued them because they weren't confident in themselves or they weren't in a position to do them. But I think anyone who's judgmental in that way, like I don't mind if people kind of are like, oh my god, really, like you're creative, and they're curious about it, or they're like, well, you know, why did you do that? Why did you take the unsafe path? Because it's not guaranteed. Like, it's a very risky path to take. But anyone who's like not like aggressively judgmental or like really like looking for problems or wanting to tear you down, me personally, I identify that as their bullshit. They're clearly not happy in their own lives, because if you're judging anybody like that, not just in a creative industry, but if you're being judgmental like that with anybody, they've got problems. They're not happy in their own lives. Like, because why else would you be trying to tear someone down like that? It's the same on social media, like keyboard warriors, trolls. They're clearly miserable in their own existence because they're like putting all their time and energy into looking at your stuff, seeing what you're doing, and trying to find fault with it, and then vocalizing that fault and ripping you down to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
That's because that's their bullshit.
Yeah. That's the most sensible thing I've ever heard you say.
I feel really proud. I'm almost lightheaded after that little thought
that's
process.
Saying something, because I've heard you talk some kind of bullshit. No, but you are right. And people will only judge you from the bottom up. It's never the other way around. Somebody, no innuendos in this podcast. We agreed. But you know, they're never going to be usually successful and happy with their life, and then judging other people. You know, it's always the other way around. So you're right about that. And on the other point, I have the illusion of safety tattooed across my collarbones, and it's one of my favorite songs and one of my favorite bands. And basically, that song is about the illusion of safety that we're kind of led to believe. That you're born, you go to school, you know, you get an education, you get a job, you have a family, you have the kids, and that's the illusion of the safe life. Where to me, that's, you know, my worst nightmare is conformity, and not being an artist would absolutely, you know, kill me. So yeah, and then dealing with the negativity and the trolls, and you know, like I said, I get a lot of it. I got death threats from the stupid Katie Hopkins interview that I did on the Nolan show, and I got 3 death threats. One of them pin dropped the location to my house. Jeez. You know, and it's but no matter what art you put out there, you're opening it out to the judgment of idiots who are not artists most of the time. Like 99.9% of the time, it's not other artists judging artists. It's the conformists that are happy to live their life like that, or it's all they know. And like you said, like, there is no judgment. Some people are happy with that. Some people, I know people who love just going into the office 9 to 5.
They're perfectly happy.
You know, they have their nice car and that's their life. That's fine. But for me, I presume most artists, that would absolutely kill you. But you do have to, you know, listen to these idiots and try and justify, because in their mind they can't fathom what we do, but in my mind I can't fathom what they do.
And I've done it. Like, I did the corporate life, I did all of that, and it was soul destroying. Like, I had a great job. I worked with Microsoft for years as well. Like, it just, I couldn't cope with it because it just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. But I think as well, like, there's outwardly people who are really judgmental and they're just looking for ways to tear you down. But then there's also people who are judgmental and they don't particularly mean to be. Like, for me personally, I always get asked about, like, you know, why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? You know, like, because of your age and the fact that you're female, it's like that's what's expected at this. Like, so when I say to people, oh, look, I'm single, I don't have kids, they almost look at me like I'm a freak. Like, you know, are you not scared of like missing your opportunity for those things? It's like, it's so insane to me that that's still an attitude. Like, no, like, loads of people, like loads of my friends have kids and they're married and they're perfectly happy. It's just not been my path. But I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I'm still actively pursuing my dream and I love my life. But people find it weird when I say I'm perfectly content in my life. I'm not looking for anything additional. I'm really, really happy chasing my dreams as I am. But they can't fathom that sometimes. And it's not coming from a bad place with them. It's just, it's like an ingrained societal expectation almost.
Just to confirm, Ashlyn is single. She just announced it on the podcast. No, I completely agree. And you know, it's not our job to convince them. I think that's the problem. It's not actually, we feel like we need to like convince them and try and justify what we do. You're on your own path, and it is hard when other people's paths cross into yours as regards the trolls and people with their opinions. And you know, you go to a family event and they ask you, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, is there any money in that? Have we seen you in anything? And you know, all that side of it. But it's not our job to convince them, and I fully agree. And the corporate life would would kill my soul, you know. So even though you may be broke and struggling and, you know, it is hard with the rejection and all that, I wouldn't change it because,
Same, yeah.
you know, that's who you are. And I always do say, like, if you make it to your deathbed when you're, you know, older in life and you look back and you have conformed and you've given up on your dreams and you have one life and you look at the bigger picture of it, it's like, is it worth it? No, it's not. It might be tough, but it's worth just staying through the course.
Well, that's it. Like, you have to do what feeds your soul. Like, you know, you've got one life. You can't. There's no do over. So for me personally, I couldn't think about not trying to pursue my dream. I couldn't give it up and just lock it away in a box.
I've wanted to many times.
Yeah, same.
Many times.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, there is weeks where you're just like, what is the point? I have tried.
We all reach those points though. It's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this?
But that's what we were talking about. They're the tough times, you know, because it's easy to talk about it when you're not in that time.
That was my point earlier. It's like, it's when you're at your lowest ebb, that's when you need to be backing yourself the most. That's when you need to be there for yourself the most. Like, simple things. Like, I do this thing in the mirror every single morning, especially when I'm having a really, really bad day or a really, really rough day, or I don't want to adult that day. It's looking myself in the mirror, because, like, we're very visual creatures and the eyes obviously are really, really powerful. But when you look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself the things that you like most about yourself, the things that you're grateful for and happy about, it could be something so small, like, I'm happy I'm having a good hair day, things like that, or like, I'm happy that I have a roof over my head. Those kind of things, it can really start to instill a stronger mindset, even though it may not feel like it at the time, but it will help to build it up. And it is really, really important, particularly for creatives in this industry, in this economy, to have that mental resilience.
Yeah, it's to find the positives.
Yeah.
Even when it seems like there aren't any, you know. And then, I mean, we will talk about it again in detail, but the whole manifestation point of it, whether, you know, you fully believe in the manifestation side of it, but it's not really about that for me. It's the positive thinking, you know, it's the pushing out the negatives and then putting out the positives, and positives will attract the positives to you, negatives will attract the negative, you know. So we'll talk about that again in detail, but I think that feeds into it a little bit. Yeah.
So, life outside the industry.
What's that about?
What is that? What does that look like?
Yeah, because I mean, when you're in it, it is all consuming, you know. Well, you know, for me, it's constant, and you're kind of representing yourself as a business person. You're your own business person, and when you own your own business, which I have done, you're never off the clock, you know. It's 24/7. But having said that, you know, and I was saying I do 5 to 8 hours roughly a day, you do need a break away from it. You can't constantly do it, because you'll just get stuck in a rut and you'll start beating yourself up more. So you do need an escape.
What do you do? Like, what's your escape?
Well, I go to the gym. I try to go to the gym most mornings during the week. I still love movies so much, even though, and it's always kind of a worry of mine, because I've been fascinated and love movies since I was a kid, like genuinely fascinated with them. And movies were always my escape as a kid. And I was just like such a wild kid, and I didn't know what the hell was going on most of the time. But movies, I would sit down and I just, you know, absolutely be fascinated with them. So movies are definitely still an escape of mine, and I have my favorite movies, and when I'm feeling crap, I still put them on. I still love them, which is really important for me. But just, you know, being around animals, I love animals so much, way more than people.
Little Moo
and Columbo the chinchilla. Yeah, so, you know, being around them is good for the soul. And then there's all your stereotypical stuff, like going for walks and getting away from, you know, being stuck and beating yourself up. So it is really important to have all these things, getting back out to nature, and, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I try to do, or what I'm really trying to get strict on myself with now, is doing like a tech detox once a week. Just turn your phone off. Like I've obviously got 2 big hellhounds at home, so they're a good excuse to get out and go for a walk, because I have to take them out. But just being out and like just even listening to the birds and like seeing the water and stuff, just separating it completely. But I'm more of an introvert, so again, wrong industry to be in. But when I've gone to events and when I've gone to the festivals and all that, I actually get quite drained. So I need to go away and recharge, and I can only really do that when there's like no people around. Just like just have my dogs and just completely relax. And then trying to like I go to the gym as well, like, so maybe 4 or 5 times a week, trying to go in, and that's like turn your phone off, just go in and, like, especially when I'm really, really stressed, just go in and lift something heavy. Just, it really, really does help. But trying to make time to go see friends and family, because that's something that I'm quite bad at. Like, I'll put friends off for ages, going, yeah, like I'll meet you in next week or the week after, or go for dinner or something. Then a month could go by before I see them. So it's trying to find that balance of like still going to see friends and family, but taking time for myself as well.
Yeah. I'm
Being a
surprised to
weird
hear you
introvert.
have friends.
I was waiting on you to say that.
No,
Such a shit.
absolutely.
You're
And
my friend, whether you care to admit it or not.
reluctant friend by obligation.
Under duress.
But yeah, the burnout mentally, absolutely. When I am around too many people, I'm such an introvert as well. I avoid people at all costs on my downtime as much as I can. But that is a real thing, and you know, even coming off set the next day, I'm always mentally drained. Any of that kind of stuff. So, it's kind of like a learning progression, like everything in life, that you kind of you know what's coming, you know how to deal with it, and you tweak things to try, and you never fully get it right, but you just keep evolving. And the thing is, and I hate when people are like, oh, well, just do this and do that and do that. Everybody is different. We're all made up of different DNA. There's not one stop shop for every person for what works, and you need to find what works for you. You know, and that's a journey that you have to take and try things, and they might not work and they might work for you. But definitely giving yourself that space and away time. And you know, the social media thing, it's like I have an absolute necessity hate with it, you know, that it is necessary for the business side of acting, absolutely. And then, you know, you get FOMO by switching off. You're like, what if this is the call of the casting director, you know, and you're cling on to that, and that can be bad then. It's an obsessive thing, you know, so I'm guilty of that.
I think we all are though. But I think a really important thing too is like, obviously it's a very aesthetic industry too. So you're kind of conscious, like I need to go to the gym, or I need to be like on a diet and making sure I'm, you know, regimented. Like I was quite strict on what I was eating, and like in fairness, I'm vegan and I have to eat gluten-free, so I'm pretty limited on nice stuff anyway. But I think it's important as well to sometimes just completely relax, like not go to the gym. You don't have to go to the gym all the time. Like don't be so focused on the aesthetic for the job. Like, cause I've heard a lot of actresses in particular saying that they must be at their ideal weight all the time, and it's like, no, like have the day where you just eat the shit. You sit down, you don't go to the gym, you completely chill out, and you eat the nice stuff that you want to eat, and like blow off steam, because you can't stay consistent like that. You can't stay going to the gym all the time, eating properly, and like staying focused on like must maintain this aesthetic. You have to enjoy your life too. Going out and eating the big dirty pizza.
Absolutely. Giving yourself permission to give yourself time off. It's so important, because it is mentally so draining, and such a tough business to be in the creatives, you know. And even the word business with creatives shouldn't be together, but they are. But if you want to make money and survive off it, it is, you know, it's an industry, and just you are representing yourself no matter what field you're in. You are your business, you know. So conducting yourself professionally, absolutely, but at the same time, don't be putting so much pressure on you, and just let it go out to the universe. Put out the positive aspirations, even if it seems like nothing. I've been at my lowest point so many times where I've wanted to give up, nothing's happening, being so close to jobs and then just not getting them at the final hurdle, or audition. I always hear people being like, oh yeah, I was auditioning, I didn't book the audition, I didn't have any fucking auditions, you know. Like when you're even at that lower point where people are giving out about not booking auditions, and I'm like, I didn't get any auditions to start with, you know. So it's at those points though that the corner turns the next day. One phone call can change it all, one email can change it all, and you never know where that's coming from. You never know the conversations. And owning a production company and being on that side of it, when you hear the conversations and how things evolve, and you know, I found out that I was really close to jobs that I never knew I was even close to. And you know, it can be the casting director, the producer, the director loved you, but then it went to the executive producer, which is the money man, and they're like, no, let's go with the safe bet. But I didn't know that I just never heard anything, so I just presumed I was shit and I should give up, you know. I probably should have listened. But you know, so it's at those points that you don't give up. And actually that director that called me that missed out on that job and was devastated and all that, I gave him a similar speech about, you know, one phone call could change it all, blah blah blah, and it literally did. The next week he just got like a massive job, and he's delighted, you know. So you can't give up. You just
maintain that belief, like you just stay the course, but it's maintaining that belief and keeping that belief alive no matter what. Like I've been told so many times, you're too old. I've been told I was too fat. I've been told I was too unattractive, I wasn't commercial enough to, but like you're always going to get told the negative things. There's always going to be a reason to step away from it. Like more often than not, you're going to have a list of reasons why you shouldn't be doing this. And that's when you need to just keep reminding yourself, this is your dream, this is what you want. You've got one life, so stay the course and just keep going, even in the toughest of times.
Absolutely. I'm same. Told with the look and the tattoos and, you know, never. And I always, it's always a thing where, like my UK Asian especially is always pushing for me to be in a rom-com. You know, I'd love to do a rom-com. But the reaction from people if you say that to them, they're like, oh yeah, right. You know, and I'm kind of like, well, why not? Like, why do we have this visual of what the representation should be? You know, now slowly but surely, thankfully, it is changing and evolving a little bit, but very, very slowly. But we're so locked in to that image conscious thing, and that goes back to going out and showing them then what you can do, and that's by creating your own work.
And backing yourself. Yeah.
So going forward, what we plan to do with the podcast is that each week we will have a guest in from the creative field, to offer their views and their advice. So it's not just us rambling on. And we do really hope that it helps people. And like I said at the start of this, you know, we don't have all the answers. We're still, you know, discovering it. We're not talking from a higher place at all. But because we can relate to it and you hear people talking about the same thing, that we hope it will help. And in that vein, then we want people to be included across the globe and ask questions. And we're going to do some lives where you can ask some questions and then we can address them to our guest, or we'll address them on the podcast going forward.
It's just kind of just trying to shine a very honest, very truthful light on mental health within the industry. Doesn't matter what aspect of the industry you're in, like want to give a voice to that. Like if you've got a question or an experience that you want to share, we want to talk about it openly and honestly, and we want to do like pop-up podcasts at the festivals and give people just an opportunity to drop in and have that voice. But it's primarily to have that open and frank discussion about mental health and the impact in this industry and how we can take care of each other. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's something that is needed, and you know, I speak to so many creatives, not just actors, and you know, but it's directors and producers and casting directors and artists. You know,
crew,
and
like all crew, everything.
Yeah, it's like it's so tough and. Just like talking about it and hearing about it, and then I'd like to hear how, you know, other people deal with it, and that can be true when we're doing the lives of how, you know, and start those conversations and then build it up that we're all talking about the same thing and you don't feel alone. Because I think that is a massive thing, that you just feel like you are the only one who feels like this, and but if you hear it then from other people in the field even higher up, then you know it helps. All right. So that was the first Fix It In Post podcast. And we will see you for episode 2.